Let's go. How's it going, everyone? It's a beautiful day here in sunny Philadelphia. We're back with another episode of Music NFT Radio. Retweet the room. That's right, everyone. Today we got another special guest on radio. If you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. Check out our podcast channels and check out the live radio over on Twitter. Today we have a special guest, a Music NFT Radio OG, and an incredibly talented artist. We have Taylor Alexander. Taylor, how's it going, man? Happy to have you here on my podcast. You've been a huge supporter of me, having me on your podcast. So what's good, dude?
Dude, what is up? I am so stoked that you're doing this. I love the format. I love the vibe. Yeah, man, I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me. How's everybody doing?
Of course, man. Yeah, glad to have you here. Excited to talk a little bit more about your story because you've had me on your podcast a couple times. You have an awesome podcast. We did 2 episodes over there talking about my journey, also talking about Music NFT Radio specifically. And I have to say, our conversations together really led me to the idea of making this in a podcast, right? So I think our conversations were some of those formative conversations that allowed me to put all these puzzle pieces together and realize I just need to record this thing live and just get it out there and start putting people's stories out there using this platform. So I'm happy to do that today and hear a little bit more about your story. I mean, we've talked about it a good amount, I'd say, but still at length compared to what I want to cover today. So today is about you and your story and what brought you down this long road as a music artist is what I've been finding talking to everyone. It's always a long and windy road. So, yeah, I'm interested to hear a little bit more about your story and what brought you into Web3 and NFTs and ultimately being an OG on Music NFT Radio, one of our first supporters, coming back every day, playing amazing live music. I mean, you crush it, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I from the very beginning when I saw Music NFT Radio pop up and I saw what you were doing, I was like, Dill gets it. He's creating something bigger than himself, and I was like, I can support that 100%. So it's been such a fun ride to watch you evolve and grow this, and to be part of the inspiration of the podcast is just warms my heart. And I'm all about trying to look out for other artists and try to inspire other artists because that's what they've done for me. And yeah, man, my journey started a long time ago. I come from 2 different families of musicians on both sides, a couple of different generations, and but it was my younger sister who really got me into it. She went to a performing arts high school in our hometown of Cincinnati, the same school that Nick Lachey actually went to from 98 Degrees. And that's important because when she was there, he produced a show on MTV that was kind of like showcasing the lives of these high schoolers at a creative and performing arts school, where the focus is on their creativity as opposed to academics. And my sister was one of the ones that was chosen to be followed around her entire senior year. Every song she wrote was put on MTV, and that really inspired me and made it all seem, possible and real. I think I was around 19 when that happened. So she blew up. Twitter had just started, so she got like 10,000 plus Twitter followers overnight. We started a band, went down to Nashville, and my dad funded a record for us, an EP. This is a long story that I'm going to shorten, but they ultimately we released the EP. It debuted at 24 on the iTunes pop charts. This is in January of 2010. And all of a sudden the labels came calling because we independently just showed up, and MTV picked up our song for the 2nd season of the show, and all of a sudden we had sync. And I was the oldest member of the band, and I just turned 21. So we were like, this is it. We've made it. We had showcases with Virgin and Atlantic, and then got flown out by Universal Republic. We played for everybody in the office. We got asked to do an encore. We met with the CEO, Avery Lippman, for an hour, and then never heard back. And we made up a couple more records, and eventually the band fizzled. I started my solo career in 2012. I heard Fifi's episode earlier, who's also been on my podcast. It's also my 10-year anniversary of my first release this month. Actually, it's today, now that I'm looking at the calendar.
Wow, dude, that is so crazy. I'm just like still stuck on that story you just told. Like you
Wild,
were
right?
in the office with them, you're tearing it up, playing live and stuff. You're talking to the CEO for an hour, and then you didn't hear back from them at all.
Never.
That is insane, man. I mean,
Right?
that is crazy. Like that just is so wild to me. I mean, the industry is so crazy. So wow, that's a crazy story, man. And that's the anniversary is today.
That is of my solo record. So yeah, I put out my first solo EP 10 years ago today, with the members of my band that after that whole project fizzled. We made 2 more EPs. We didn't release them. That was obviously the dagger in the heart of that band. But we still have a record out on Spotify called We Will Grow. The band is Mia Carruthers and the Retros, if anybody wants to check that out. But yeah, the anniversary is of my debut EP, self-titled. Taylor Alexander and I have been on the independent artist kind of journey ever since then. I went on to put out 3 more EPs, 2 of which I released here in Ohio, and then in 2014 I moved to LA and started my kind of what I think I look back on it now is I felt like I needed to validate myself on either coast. I think coming up when I did, that was kind of the idea you had to do to make it to the highest level. And I'd been to New York and I'd been there during the winter and I was like, I'm not into that. So I literally saved for about 6 months and I moved to LA having never visited there, never been there. I only knew like 2 people. And I started playing shows the second week and met friends, and I put out my 4th EP while I was in LA. I came out there with it finished, and yeah. So LA was crazy. I spent 6 years there. I summarize it as the most challenging and most rewarding experience of my life so far. I met so many incredible people. I was in so many amazing rooms that I had no business being in without the gift of music, and also learned so much about the world and about myself, and just got a real dose of reality in the fact of how big the world is, how just intense it can be at sometimes, especially when you live in a city that's on like the international pulse of the world, as I like to put it. And anybody that's been to LA, they know, they've heard stories. It's just a wild place in general. But there's so many things I love about it and miss about it. But after the 6 years,
That's a really important topic. Like I think so many artists are wondering about this experience, right? You moved across the country to go to LA to pursue your dreams of music. Like even me personally, I've been to LA plenty of times, but I've never moved there. And I'm definitely thinking about it as somewhere that I might want to move because of the potential for my career. I mean, what was that experience like? Like maybe you could just say a little bit more. Like, was it worth it? Like, what were the upside and downside of it? Do you think it helped your career? Would you recommend an artist thinking of doing the same thing to move across the country, go to LA for music?
so for me, I grew in ways I never thought possible. I'm at a place now where I never thought I'd ever be. I wouldn't be the artist I am today if I hadn't gone and done that. However, knowing what I know now about LA and knowing what has LA has become after the pandemic, which is we'll get to that part of the story later. But just LA is different in that nothing is as it seems. You know, it's about the optics there. It's not really a music town. It's really more about film and Hollywood there, which I enjoyed because you kind of get a pass as a musician. People are like, "Oh, you're not an actor? Cool," you know. And there's millions of people there, and there's millions of the coolest people ever that live in Southern California. You don't have to worry about the weather, which is amazing. The food is incredible. Mexico is a 3.5 hour drive away. Any artist that has any sort of inkling that is calling them to California, I think should absolutely try it, but also know what you're getting into. I was able to work as a full-time musician half of the time that I was there. I worked in restaurants. I sold hats. I worked at the mall during Christmas to sell those hoverboard things. The year those came out, got really good at them, doing tricks and shit. And I was also able to get a couple residencies. I had a residency weekly at this spot in the Santa Monica Promenade, and played all over the state. But once COVID hit, it literally ruined everything that I had built there overnight. All of the work that I had done to put in to create stability came crumbling down with the lockdowns, with the way that they treated the live music there. I also had an unfortunate situation happen with the unemployment department in California. So I didn't receive any money for over a year and was forced to move, which is part of what made me rethink everything and reassess everything, and ultimately what led me down the rabbit hole to Web3 and NFTs. I had to come home, not with my tail between my legs, because it was literally, I was forced, but it was an emotional setback that I had never could have predicted or thought was possible. Like, I thought I'd be able to play live shows forever. There's no way you could shut down live shows for a long period of time. And so it just made me rethink everything. And I started to get on TikTok and started to just kind of, be online more and see what was going on there and just rethink things. And one day I found a Gary V TikTok talking about NFTs. And being an artist at heart, I started instinctually drawing when music got shut down. And that's where my tag comes from, Humanimals Art. I created a bunch of hand-drawn images just in my free time, and built it into a website and launched it as kind of an art business because I didn't really know what else to do. And I was thinking, I can take my art business and I can move that into NFTs. And maybe that's something I can do while we kind of wait for live music to come back. And I like to learn through podcasts. So I started to listen to any podcast I could find about NFTs. And I found The Nifty Show, hosted by Joel Comm and Travis Wright. And I started listening to that. And I was like, oh man, this is fascinating. This is like baseball cards. This is like Beanie Babies. This is like art all wrapped into one. And I started to learn about NFTs and then crypto and then economics almost in reverse order, because the art element of the NFT made it applicable to me. I was like, oh, okay, I get this. And so I reached out to those guys. I was so inspired by the podcast, and they got back to me. And through a text or email chain, I was like, hey, PS, if you ever want to have a live performer, I'd love to throw my hat in the ring. And they had me on, and they made my first NFT, and they did a little sale right after the show, and I made like $250 in wax, and I was in the space. Yeah.
So wax was one of the first blockchain you used?
It was the first one I used. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I've heard good things about wax. I haven't used it extensively. I know it's low gas fees and it's heavily NFT oriented, and I have some friends that use it. But that's cool. That's interesting to hear. That's where you came in. I think a lot of people do find the lower gas fee or some of these other environments to be more friendly to onboarding and getting into the space. Versus like the Ethereum environment, which has been such high gas fees and stuff like that. So were you like into crypto at all before you learned about NFTs, or was NFTs really your introduction to crypto as well?
Yeah, NFTs was my introduction to crypto. I understood quickly like what NFTs represented for me as an artist, and then I went down the rabbit hole that way. I also lied. It wasn't the first NFT I minted was the second day I learned about it. So I learned about it on the last day of February of 2021. And then on March 1st, I instantly bought some ETH and minted 5 of my very first Humanimals art piece, which is a boxer, and it's a boxer dog dressed as a boxer. So that was my first NFT. But then the first drop I had was with Yoshi Drops, who also is the presents the podcast that I do. They did my first big drop on Wax in September. So I did a little tiny drop, and then I did a big one. And I've just kind of been learning about crypto, through NFTs, just like you said.
Awesome, man. That's really cool. Really cool, man, to hear that you came in through NFTs, really looking through NFTs for music specifically. You know, building in this space, I think it wasn't obvious at first that NFTs were going to be the ultimate path to sell your music for crypto, because I really came into crypto first, and then NFTs stood out to me as, okay, this is going to be the way to sell music. And that tied my passions together. But to hear that artists are able to come in with an interest in music and actually be drawn toward NFTs, I think that is what, to me, proves that something here is special, right? Like, this is a completely transformative technology for the music industry. And I think as artists start to realize that, there really is this attraction to the space because there's something legit happening here, right? We're revaluing music, and I'm sure you saw that potential as well. And so, how did you get involved with everything you're building? You know, with Yoshi Drops, and I know you've collabed. You know, Yoshi Drops has collabed with some cool artists as well. And so you're doing all kinds of interesting stuff. So maybe just kind of overview of what you're working on now in Web3.
Totally. Yeah. I didn't see it as music first. I was looking through it through the art lens first, because this was like 2 weeks before Beeple sold his big NFT. So that, like, my family thought I was crazy. They were like, "What are you talking about?" Like, and then that happened, and I was like, "See." So I was thinking about it through my art, which I had just created over 2020 through the pandemic. And then I heard a podcast, The Nifty Show, that had M Blue on, and M Blue was one of the first guys to put out a music video full length as an NFT. I think he did it in like 2019, and he was on the Nifty Show, and he and the host Joel are friends. And so once I listened to that episode, that's when my mind exploded, because I was like, oh no, this is for music too. And then I realized it was literally everything I'd ever, my whole life I've been working to create art and to try to be the best that I can at that, try to be the best at my craft. And all of a sudden it clicked that this was not just for art, it was for music too. But at the time, when I first started kind of hunting around, it was you, Domino, Spotty Wi-Fi, and maybe Fifi, and maybe that was it. I didn't see any other musicians, and I think it might have been just you three. I thought, oh, it's maybe like a hip hop thing, like maybe there's not space for acoustic singer songwriter stuff here yet, or maybe not at all. Like, I just didn't know. But I got introduced to M Blue and Yoshi Drops through Joel and through that podcast. I kept up with him and followed along with what they were doing, and I was one of the very first artists to submit when Yoshi Drops was founded by Yoshi Kondo and M Blue. And so I've kind of been with them from the beginning. And I started out just as a community member. And after a couple months, I was like, man, I really need to go meet M Blue. I'm an in-person person, so that's why I'm really looking forward to NFT NYC. And so I went to Austin, and I just was doing some scouting work for venues for my nonprofit. And I hit him up on Telegram, and I was like, hey, I'm in Austin. Do you mind? Do you want to have coffee or something? And he said, why don't you come over to my house for dinner? And I was like, okay, cool. So I went over to M Blue's house, and I brought my guitar, and we went out to dinner. I ended up playing 7 songs for him and his family right there in their living room. He and his wife recorded all of the songs with their iPhones, video and audio. And then that became my Genesis drop on Yoshi Drops 2 months later.
That's cool, man. That's a great story, man. Awesome. I mean, you're doing awesome stuff in the space. You have your podcast too, which I've been on. You did an incredible job interviewing me there. And then you kind of put your own spin on it too. And also, you're just such a talented music artist, man. I mean, let's talk about the podcast first. And then I have some things to say that I've noticed just hearing you play over spaces. And I can't wait to hear you play in person in New York. But let's first touch on the podcast that you're working on, and maybe you could tell us a little more about that and let artists know how to get involved and stuff.
Absolutely. So it's called Yoshi Drops the Mic. And during that first meeting with M Blue I was like, hey, have you thought about doing a podcast? And he was like, no. Is that something you'd be interested in? And I was like, hell yeah. And so that's kind of how the idea started. And because I love three things: I love drawing, I love performing and writing music, and I love talking to people. And so podcasting is the perfect medium for that. And so, in partnership with Yoshi Drops, they hired me on as a team member and kind of gave me the keys to the podcast car. And I've kind of run with it. So the podcast is called Yoshi Drops the Mic, and it's a Web3 artist focused podcast where we let the artists tell their stories, because that's what it's all about. That's what we're doing right now. And so we share the artist story in a Web2 platform that people are used to listening to, and we make it entertaining. And we let the artists tell their story in their words, and we also let the music tell the story. But we also add some NPR style polish. So I create a narration or a voiceover, and that kind of weaves the story together. And the way we record it is we just sit down and chat for an hour. And it kind of comes together as this really nice, polished, high production value podcast. But really what it's doing is formatting it in a way that people are listening to, especially people that don't understand the space. We're trying to give them a medium in which they're used to kind of have the experience to kind of go down that rabbit hole. And additionally, to do that, we made a mini podcast called NFT FAQ, which is just that. It answers frequently asked questions, and they break down simple things like, what is the blockchain? What is an NFT? What is cryptocurrency? The one coming out this week is, what are Twitter Spaces? And Violetta will be our season finale. So we just wrapped season 1 this week, and I'm very much looking forward to season 2. We have a few guests that are already in the pipeline. We're going to have a few guests back, and I have some few open spots for when I'm in New York. I'm going to be bringing my podcast setup with me, and hoping to do some in-person recordings, because in my opinion, that's the best way to really get the most out of it. But the podcast, Yoshi Drops the Mic, and NFT FAQ are available everywhere you can listen to podcasts. And right now, it's just an audio. It's to be listened while you're driving or doing laundry or something else. But yeah, man, Dill, you really changed the whole trajectory of the show with your knowledge and your ability to speak on the subject. And you've educated me so much, not only in NFTs and in crypto, and just the way to look at it. And I am so inspired by you and your just ability to get after it. So I really appreciate all that you do. And I'm so excited to be a part of this community of the artists who have been putting in the time and the work. And now we have an opportunity to really grow together without the influence of outside non-musicians. And I think that is the real secret sauce here.
100%, man. And that's what we're doing. And the content is just coming. With this podcast, I'm just like, let's interview as much as possible. Let's just keep putting out the episodes. They'll get discovered over time, and it's already moving pretty fast. I also think that we've gained like a critical mass with Music NFT Radio. So, and I've been grinding on the Twitter too. It's more than that. I'm getting good with those tweets. I'm getting the community nice and engaged. It's great. So everything's growing. I think this YouTube channel is going to pop off. It's already at like almost 25 subscribers. It's not a lot, but like it just started a couple days ago, and I'm not pushing it that hard. So it's very good, I would say. So we're going to be at 100 and 1,000 subscribers in no time. I looked at the other very large radio type of show here on Twitter. One of them, at least, they have like 1,000 subs on YouTube. So I'm like, all right, like we're gonna be growing here. We're gonna be playing with the big boys. Taylor, I have a question. Is it accurate to say #1 selling artist goes into NFTs?
What do you mean?
That to describe you and this episode, because you said your album hit #1, right?
No, number 24.
Okay, that's pretty good still. So what you were saying that the album debut that was your album debut that hit number 24?
That was the band. That was the band I was with my sister. That was off the
Right.
wings of the NFT or the MTV show. So that was my very first ever project. So I was the lead guitarist in the band with my sister, and that was called Mia Carruthers and the Retros. And that EP with the help of the MTV show, independently got us at 24 on the iTunes pop charts.
Awesome.
But this was back in 2010. So that's kind of what got the label's attention, was that all of a sudden we popped up. This was kind of before independent music was a thing. Like, we then released on TuneCore. It was happening, but it was very early on. But that wasn't my personal EP. That came later on, after the band fizzled, after, we kind of dusted ourselves off and picked ourselves back up.
Awesome. Yeah, just trying to get it straight here. I've got a great little artwork whipped up for you. It's looking good. Taylor, you have an awesome story, man. And it's just, every time there's so many things about an artist that you don't know, and there's always ups and downs in the journey. And you've certainly been through it. And the stuff about COVID is crazy, And just to think how, it just shut everything down, and you had issues with all of the aid that you could have gotten and stuff like that. I mean, it's crazy, but I think everything happens for a reason. I think we're in the right place here with NFTs and Web3. Even if the market is tanking, I feel like music NFTs specifically, there's still a great energy. And as long as I'm here, I'm bringing that good energy. So let's go, Taylor. I really appreciate what you're doing, man, everything you're doing with the podcast. And I definitely am going to tell artists to reach out to you to get on the show as well.
Thank you, man. Please do. And I appreciate you so much. I can't wait to meet you. And I actually wanted to reach out to you. I know you're a busy man. I don't know if you have any time, but I'm going to need help with creating the NFT FAQ content. If I'm being honest, I feel like I'm reaching kind of the depth of my knowledge with this show. And I would love if I could just, maybe we could meet once or twice, and I can kind of pick your brain about some questions we could answer, and maybe just kind of get some of your knowledge that we could help make some episodes, if you're interested in that.
Yeah, man, definitely down to chat. That sounds cool.
Cool. Is it possible to play a song before I go?
Yes, please do. Of course. That is an amazing way. Please play a song or a couple. I mean, if you play a couple, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll play two. I'll play the one that got me on Music NFT Radio and started our relationship, which I cherish so much. And like I said before, I'm so stoked about just the community we're building here, man. We can not only look out for ourselves, but look out for the next generation. What were you going to say? I
just said, hell yeah, let's go. We got our boy Taylor Alexander playing here live. NFT Radio.
So this is the one that got me on the space, and kind of does a little bit of all the things that I do. I want to thank you all so much for listening live right now. And if you're listening on YouTube back, I appreciate you too. This is Deadly. Well, you said, how do you do? It was 2:30 a.m. Been out with your friends all night, drinking a party then. But stumbled into conversation like I stumbled into your place. Oh, well, you say you can take it slow, and I can handle that. We talk for several hours like some real aristocrats these. But spooky little weekends are starting to take over me. Eyes, they pierce like knives. Your words, they make me weak. You smile and I just die. Oh, so deadly. You're so deadly. Well, I'm wigging out for no damn reason. Oh, why do I do that then? All life is suffocating, need to get my big breath back. Take it one by one or two by two if you need to do so. Well, I don't know. Eyes, they pierce like knives. Your words, they make me weak. You smile and I just die. You're so deadly. Deadly in the best way. You see what I'm trying to say is that I can remember better feeling than this love. Oh, when you're so I see you smiling on the front page. You're so eccentric, yeah, she's so deadly, but completely photogenic. So when I think of her, these thoughts are easily remembered. She bright like December, hard-coded in November. Or shall I enter is the question I keep asking. Don't want to over-pursue and end up like the last man. Cause on a night like tonight, I think she might be worth it. A couple makers on the rocks, I think she might be perfect. Every time she touch my arm, I get a little nervous. I play it cool and let love serve its purpose. Whoa, yeah. Oh, because your eyes, they pierce like knives, and your words, they make me weak. Ooh, when you smile, I just die. Oh, when you smile, I just die. Oh, no, no, when you smile, I just die. Oh, so deadly.
Let's go. That song is so fire, man. A banger. And you're on the Music NFT Radio playlist, so everyone can tune in there. Make sure to follow Taylor Alexander on Twitter. Make sure to follow him. Look him up on YouTube. Get him on Spotify or Apple Music. And support his NFTs as well. I mean, Taylor, you're awesome, man. And you got another song for us as well?
Sure do. I haven't been more inspired, or more excited about anything. Well, when I found this space, since I first started getting into music. So I was so excited and like had this like youthful bliss about finding this space, and I feel like I can't believe that I still feel so much of that now, almost a year and a half in. And I think it's because of all of you, and I think it's because of the energy that is literally being channeled into this space 24/7. And Dill, you take up a huge percentage of that, and just so much props and flowers and love to you, dude, for the work you do here for all of us. I see you and I appreciate you. And this song I wrote, I think I might have wrote it before you, but you beat me to releasing it, and it's a song called GM. And I think we're coming from the same place. I love your song GM, by the way. Mine kind of tries to encapsulate this feeling I'm trying to talk about now, and I'm struggling to do so. But it's like getting up every morning and just being like, all right, we got something to work towards, and to not have to feel that desperation anymore, and to like not to have to feel that like, man, I hope something happens, has just been everything for me. So this is my song GM. Wake up in the morning, say good morning to my friends, GM. I get to work on my art today. What a beautiful day it is. This is never happened before. To waste it would be such a chore. That's why I say good morning to my friends. GM. GM. Take a break in midday and stretch. I'll keep my state hydrated. I don't want my body to get too upset. This is never gonna happen again. A battle between the now and the then. That's why I say good morning to my friends. GM. GM. Going to bed at night, I gotta get my beauty rest. GM. Oh, sleep is so important, I shouldn't have to explain it. It's a balance between your body and your mind. Always remember, psst, it's free to be kind. That's why I say good morning to my friends. Sunrise. It's why I say good morning to my friends. Why I say good morning to my friends. GM. 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 I also just got confirmation that I'm going to be performing at Webstock right before this started.
Awesome. Let's go. Yeah, definitely, man. And we got the Music NFT Radio happy hour too, which I'm sure will be like more of a chill vibe. You could perform there. But yeah, it's going to be awesome, man. Really excited. And thanks so much for coming on the show. If there's anything else you want to tell everyone for the podcast before we get going, you can add that in.
Just thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for supporting independent and live music. Thank you for supporting Dill and I. Thank you for supporting every artist that is putting their all into the space. This is an opportunity that we have to change things, not only for ourselves, but for the future. And just thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here and for caring. I just can't thank you enough for all that you do, Dill. Appreciate you, brother.
Hell yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. Everyone, thanks for listening. Music NFT Radio podcast. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube to our channel. Go like the official playlist on Spotify, YouTube, other sites. And check out the live radio on Twitter, everyone. We're doing this all day, 24/7. Taylor, thanks for coming on. Let's get back to it. This is Music NFT Radio. Retweet the room.